Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in part 9 of What If Reds and Blues goes to Remnant. Link down description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 17, RWBY 101. Remnant, Kingdom of Vale, Beacon Academy. Team RWBY. Premise, class is in session, and the Reds and Blues are the instructors. Oh boy. RWBY was surprisingly the first one to wake up out of the rest of her team. It was Wednesday and despite all the ruckus that happened yesterday, classes were still in session. RWBY showered, and got dressed. Once she was finished, the rest of her team was already up. RWBY. Weiss muttered from her bed, "What are you doing up so early?" RWBY shrugged, couldn't sleep anymore. "I feel like something new is happening today. Usually Weiss is the first to get up." Blake muttered while reading a book, "Then me, then you, and last but not least Yang." "So how much time is there until classes begin sis?" Yang asked. An hour and a half. RWBY replied, "Let's get some food first." Agreed. The other girls went on to shower and get dressed into their school uniforms. As they walked through the halls of Beacon, Weiss decided to spark up another conversation. "I still can't believe that classes are still in session," she groaned, especially after what happened in Vale. "Well, we have to prepare for the tournament," Blake retorted, "also we are apparently now at war." Weiss narrowed her eyes, "Right. Oh, don't let any of this get to your head guys." Yang said to them, "We can finally do some good. Join the bigger fight. Are you considering we sign up for the front lines?" Blake questioned. "Yeah," Yang replied, "it could be fun. We'll have the Reds and Blues with us I presume." The four made it to the cafeteria, got their food, and sat down with Team JNPR. "So there we were," Nora said dramatically, "Grim were surrounding the two of us." Yang leaned over to Ren and whispered in his ear, "What the longest story she's ever told?" "Since I've known her, 1 to 2 days. Ren whispered back. Suddenly, the 8 huntsmen and huntresses all received a notification on their scrolls. "Hey, we got a message from Ozpin," RWBY muttered. Weiss raised an eyebrow. "Ozpin? What does he want?" "He sent us new schedules," John said, as he read the message. 9 o'clock to 9:30 The Species of Grimm, Peter Port. 9:35 to 10:15 History of Remnant, Bartholomew Oobleck. 10:20 to 10:50 UNSC History and Military Doctrine, Colonel Sarge, Captain Richard Simmons, and Samuel Ortez. 10:55 to 11:25 Medical Class, Medical Officer Frank Dufresne and Sergeant Franklin D. Donut. 11:30 to 1 o'clock Lunch Break. 1:05 to 3 o'clock RWBY 101 Combat Class, The Reds and Blues. 3 o'clock, Classes End. 4:05 to 7 o'clock Dinner Hours. "What the hell?" Weiss muttered, "What happened to Combat Class with Professor Goodwitch?" "It's gone," Blake said to her. "I can see that," Weiss retorted. Sun and Neptune then walked up to the group. "What's going on guys?" Sun asked them. "We heard Weiss yelling." "I was not," the heiress protested. "We got new schedules from Ozpin." RWBY said to him, "We lost classes with Goodwitch and Professor Peach. Now we have 3 new classes with the Reds and Blues." Hira added. "Hey, so do we," Sun replied. "I knew you guys would sign up." RWBY and JNPR looked confused at what Sun had just said. "Sign up?" Nora questioned, "What are you talking about?" "It's a new set of classes Ozpin and your soldier friends created." Neptune explained, "We signed up so we can join the fight against the White Fang. Teams CFVY and CRDL signed up too." John scoffed. "Cardin joined." "Yeah, we are a little worried about that though," Neptune said to him. "But we never signed up for this program." Weiss spoke up. "Hey guys." Blake spoke up while looking at the schedule, "Maybe we should read the rest." The group looked over Blake's shoulder and found one last message from Ozpin. "Your friends requested that I place you 8 all in their care. I agreed with this, as I know all of you want to fight the bigger fight. They speak highly of you all, and I hope you work with them well." Ozpin. "So Ozpin just signed us up with the Reds and Blues without consulting with us?" Weiss questioned. "Apparently so," Hira replied. "This is perfect," Yang shouted, "now we can bring the fight to Cinder and her posse." "Isn't this great Blake?" "Great is a strong word Yang." Blake replied, "I would have gone with tolerable." Weiss looked at them like they had 10 heads. How could you agree to this? Weiss, we know the reds and blues, and we all want to do some good. You heard what Tucker said yesterday. Maybe we can change the world. Weiss sighed in defeat. No matter how hard she tried, she would be voted out by the rest of her friends. Fine. She replied, I guess it won't hurt. Great. Pav change, the Prowler. I don't care what you say. Griff shouted at several Atlesian soldiers, you pieces of Atlesian shit aren't going to lay hands on our tech. Griff, Doc, Lopez, and Kai all stood by the Prowler's boarding ramp. The ship itself was docked at the Bullhead docks at Beacon. Lopez and Doc were unloading several crates filled with old Freelancer and Karen tech acquired by the Reds and Blues. Apparently, several Atlas soldiers came over and claimed they were there to modify their weapons to fit their needs. But we were ordered by General Ironwood and Professor Goodwich to help in modifying all your tech for dust usage, one of the Atlas officers protested. Well, tell Robo-Daddy and Goodwich to make like a tree and fuck off. Griff cursed, this is our tech, and none of you are gonna get it. Now scram. Yeah, get lost. Kai added. The Atlas personnel huffed in defeat before walking away. Ironwood and Glinda, who had been watching, then walked up to them. You know. Ironwood said to him calmly, you didn't have to yell at my men. Griff sighed, sorry, force of habit. Glinda glared at the Sim troopers, but dust is a powerful and sufficient power source. It is best bet that we combine our tech to help. No. Griff cut her off, absolutely not. What? Why? Glinda protested. First off, we've had problems with tech like this in the past. Griff explained, it's best bet that it stays in the right hands. Secondly, why should I give it to you? You both are in no position to ask for it. We aren't just gonna start using dust as our main power source just because you tell us to. Lastly, you're wrong, dust is in fact weaker and inferior to our tech. Yes. Lopez spoke up, your robots are shit. You tell them, Lopez. Griff said to his robot friend in Spanish. How dare you? Glinda shouted, we had a deal. But, Ironwood said, cutting her off, the deal did not state the exchange of our people's tech at all. Glinda glared at him for a moment before huffing in annoyance. Fine, you're right, she growled. I apologize. Ironwood said to Griff. Nah, it's fine. Doc assured him. For now, hehehe. O'Malley added. I assume you're also here to ask about me. Kai asked the two huntsmen. Correct. Glinda said to her, you will be working with Ozpin later today. Awesome. Kai shouted. What are you able to do so far, Ms. Kaikina? Glinda asked her. Well, I do that thing with my eyes. Form a shield and sword. But nothing else. Interesting, Glinda muttered. Ironwood decided to ask a more personal question, so you two are brother and sister? Yep. Griff simply answered, took care of her for most of my life, and the rest is history. She burnt down the house. I joined the army and she followed suit. Tucker may or not have banged her, but whatevs. Oh gross. Doc muttered. Shut up. Shut up. Griff and O'Malley hissed at the medic. Pav changed. Team RWBY and JNPR. The two teams walked out of Oobleck's history class, each of them trying to remember what the coffee-addicted doctor taught them. Luckily, Caboose happened to be in the class to act as translator for him. Which seemed to work for the class. I can't believe Caboose was helpful. Weiss chuckled. Hey, it's Caboose. Ruby shouted, he's full of surprises. So what's next? Yang asked about classes. UNSC History and Military Doctrine. Ren replied as he looked at the list. Why do we need to learn military doctrine? Weiss questioned, history I kinda understand, but why? I guess we'll find out soon. Blake replied. As the group approached the classroom, they were nearly run over by none other than Dr. Oobleck. Professor Oobleck, Nora said to him. It's Doctor. He corrected her. What are you doing here? Yang asked. Why, it's a history class, Yang. Oobleck explained, I am here to learn, of course. Does Simmons know? Ren further asked. As a matter of fact, he does. Oobleck replied, he actually approached me first. Right. Yang muttered. With that out of the way, everyone entered the classroom. It was no different from Port's or Oobleck's. Several flags hung were on full display. One had 13 red and white stripes and a blue rectangle in the left-hand corner. Several stars were plastered on it. Second was color blue, white and red in the form of a tricolor. Third was a red and blue horizontal, sideways cross. Fourth was black, red, and yellow. Fourth was a completely red with yellow stars in the corner. Finally was white, blue and red flag. Sarge, Simmons, and Locus all stood at the desk at the bottom of the room. A large map was right behind them, however it wasn't of Remnant. There were also very few students, however others could have been on a different schedule. The teams RWBY and JNPR did recognize were CVFY, SSSN, and CRDL. Thank you all for coming. Sarge announced. Now as the title reads, Simmons, Locus, and myself shall be teaching you all about the history of the UNSC. In its form of military doctrine. Simmons added. Are there any questions? Locus asked the students. I have a question. Weiss spoke up. Excellent. Simmons said to her, what is your name? Weiss scoffed. Simmons, it's me. Me who? Simmons questioned. Hey guys, what kinda name is me? Weiss rolled her eyes. It's Weiss. Alright Weiss. What is your question? Why teach us about military doctrine? She questioned them. It doesn't seem very important for Huntsman. Interesting question. Simmons replied, as you all know, war is on the horizon and we believe we need to demold you. Manage you all into a more sophisticated stance. Just to let you all know. Sarge spoke up, the doctrine you will all learn you have to take to heart, but its philosophies and ideals could help you while on the battlefield. The trio went on to explain the history of Earth and the UNSC as a whole, with Oobleck asking most questions as much as Weiss. Several complaints were given to them, mostly by Cardin, which earned him a suspension. Military doctrine came next, and that the UNSC followed a quality over quantity ideology. It was better to have a smaller and better trained force, rather than a large poorly trained force. Next came medic class, which was going to be taught by Doc and Donut. For some reason Caboose was there as well, and strapped to a table with burn marks on his right shoulder. Doc went on to explain the importance of having a member of each team to be responsible for having a medic. O'Malley went on to add, despite aura being useful on the battlefield, there will always come a time when someone will be gutted like a fish. It was then the class realized that the reason why Caboose was there was simple, he was the subject. Doc used him as an example to treat numerous wounds including burn marks, bullet wounds, knife cuts, etc. Many students did find this useful, as it could be helpful during long missions. Finally after lunch came the final class for the day, RWBY 101. It was to be taught by the entirety of the Reds and Blues, and was the one class both students and teachers were eager to watch. Ozpin, Glinda, Ironwood, even Port and Oobleck were eager to watch. The class itself was taught within an old complex on Beacon grounds. It was made up of small warehouses to store dust and other weaponry, a vehicle bay and hangar, and a large mansion-like building at the center. Originally, the complex was used as a guest area for traveling huntsmen and government officials. But with the Reds and Blues in town, Ozpin allowed them to turn it into their new primary base of operation. Sarge said he would be making several modifications to the complex, a thing Glinda obviously refused, but Ozpin nonetheless allowed him to make his adjustments. The new classroom was within the mansion, and was similar to the Glinda classroom but larger in size. The color was steel gray with blue outlines, compared to the brown color of other classrooms at Beacon. It was obvious that Sarge started to make adjustments to the place. The Reds and Blues had the Beacon staff watch from a booth overlooking the arena. This was odd, as normally they would simply watch from the bleachers in a normal sparring match. But according to Tucker and Wash, they would be doing things differently on the first day. Things are going to be a lot different compared to Goodwich's class. Tucker said to the teams, as they stood in the middle of the sparring room, since this is the first day, I want to see what you all can do. This entire room has been modified to project holographic simulations. We are going to put into a battle simulation to test your strength and metal. Like copper. Nora questioned. No, that's metal. Wash explained to her, he said metal. Few things before we get started. Sarge spoke up, 1. Don't rely too much on your weapon. 2. Work together as a team, all of you must do so. Finally, does everyone remember what your previous 2 classes taught you all? Yeah, Ruby muttered. Use your knowledge then, Sarge said to her before the Blood Gulch crew left the room. The Reds and Blues entered the booth where the Beacon staff were watching from. They didn't sit down like the other did, they simply stood off to the side. Usually we stand in the bleachers and give our students advice. Glinda said to the soldier, not too thrilled on how they teach. True, Simmons replied, but we are not like you. Our first class of the day is to see what they can do. Once we identify their strengths and weaknesses, we can work from there. Allow me to begin today's simulation. Sarge announced as he pushed several buttons on a nearby console. Listen up, kids. Today we will be putting you through several simulations and scenarios to find your strengths and weaknesses. The students' surroundings suddenly took the form of a boxed canyon, with two identical bases on either side of the canyon. To most of the students, it was a place they've never seen. To Team RWBY on the other hand, they knew where they were. Blood Gulch. Blake muttered. How did we get here? Yang asked out loud. It's not real, Yang. Tucker said to her through a mic. This is a holographic simulation, similar to the underground chamber Sarge built in one of our old bases. The training session begins in 3, 2, 1. Begin. Several holographic Grimm materialized in front of the huntsmen, and charged at them. The kids readied their weapons and engaged the creatures. The Reds and Blues watched their attacks carefully, trying to figure out what they were going to be working with. Not bad, Carolina muttered, they're good. I teach them how to engage all types of Grimm. Port spoke up, I haven't taught all of them as of yet. Just the ones that are native to Vale. There are some things I would consider wrong. Wash said to him, don't get me wrong, you taught them well. It's just that Ruby is calling out attack patterns to her team. Sure it works, but not while engaging a more intelligent foe. Well, I did not teach them that. Port replied. Did any of you? Tucker asked the entirety of the Beacon staff. We did not. Glinda replied. Ms. Rose came up with it herself. All right, someone make a note of that. Tucker muttered. Soon, the huntsman defeated all the Grimm within the simulation. Who's next? Yang quipped. Tucker then got on the mic. Well done. Here's the final part of the test. You will fight a more intelligent group of foes. Several figures materialized into the simulation. These guys wore black armor similar to the Reds and Blues. But their visors were narrow and were color white. They carried gray rifles that glowed orange. This was where the Reds and Blues found the real weak points of the huntsman. Sarge and Donut started to make notes, and had to converse with one another to see if either of them were right. From what they gathered, all of them relied too much on their weapons, the biggest one being Ruby. If they were to be disarmed, he or she was practically useless. Hera on the other hand was the opposite, she relied too much on her semblance. The Reds and Blues knew that she had control over polarity, and if she was attacked by someone who did use metal in their weapon, she was screwed. Even the Reds and Blues, new armor was made of a plastoid material that was just as strong as the old armor. Teamwork was quite good amongst them all. Blake and Sun worked together well as a good example. The ones who didn't try to help out were Team CRDL. Instead, they made things harder by indirectly attacking Velvet and at one time Blake. The Huntsman, minus CRDL, even drew ideas from their classes. Ren and Yachwashi used their knowledge from Doc's medic class, while Ruby and John came up with plans inspired from UNSC military doctrine. When the test was complete, the Reds and Blues addressed the class. Hot damn chili. Well done. Sarge announced, you all remind me of a younger me. There are some things of course that we will be addressing in the future though. Wash added, we will be teaching you all hand-to-hand combat. What? Why? Cardin questioned. Well, how do we put this? Donut muttered. You all suck without your weapons. Griff said blatantly. Dude, does the word, subtle, mean anything to you? Simmons asked you. Nope. Griff replied. I thought not. What do you mean you suck? Cardin shouted, we were good. No, they were good. Carolina corrected him while pointing at the rest of the huntsmen, all you did was try to torment Velvet. Which by the way, won't be tolerated in our class. You're all going to learn hand-to-hand combat, and that is final. Locus added. To add on to that, Tucker continued, it is important not to rely too much on your semblance. So we'll teach you that as well. That will be all for today, kids. Sarge said, class dismissed. The huntsman left the classroom to relax for the rest of the day. The Beacon staff then approached the Blood Gulch crew. That was perfect. Port said, well, me and Oobleck must be on our way. See you later. Port and Oobleck then left, and Ozpin then spoke. A rather interesting first day, he muttered. Like I said, today was a test. Tucker said to him, now we know what to work with. I find it rather odd. Glinda added her 2 cents, why use fake simulations? To prepare them for anything. Simmons explained. Tucker then spoke up again, anyway, that's all for today. I'm gonna need something from you guys, particularly Ironwood. Ironwood looked at him, what do you need? Pav change. Neapolitan. Neo walked solemnly through the dark streets of Vale's industrial district. She grieved over Torchwick's demise, seeing him as a friend and not her boss. Neo swore that she would have her revenge, and managed to get several of Torchwick's contacts to keep sending weapons to the White Fang. Now, she heard of a place where the Reds and Blues may have been hiding. She wasn't alone, several WF goons and even Adam all went with her. But instead of finding a hideout, all they found were the Reds and Blues waiting for them. Sup? Griff said to them. Neo and Adam readied their weapons, but Tucker stopped. Stop. He said, don't, we're not here to fight. Adam lowered his sword, why should I believe you? I'm not even here for you, Red Bull. Tucker quipped before looking at Neo, I'm here for you. Neo raised an eyebrow in confusion as Tucker motioned for Sarge and Locust to come to him. The two were hauling a coffin of all things on wheels. They stopped next to Tucker. Here's your boss. Tucker explained, give him a proper burial and everything. Tucker then handed Neo Torchwick's hat and cane, which she took in confusion. Why is he doing this? Just to be clear, Tucker said as he and his friends boarded the Prowler, I didn't kill your boss out of anger. I killed him because he is a pawn, and a good at that. It's just another death I have to live with. We kill with honor, all for us. Rest assured, that we will not stop until we bring all of you to justice. The Reds and Blues then boarded the Prowler, and departed for Beacon. Leaving a confused Adam, and a distressed Neo. Chapter 18, Dust Busters. Remnant, Continent of Solitas, Kingdom of Atlas. Pav, the Reds and Blues. Premise, desperate for resources to fuel their growing war machine. The Reds and Blues go looking for dust. While several opposing parties become acquainted with the Blood Gulch crew. The Prowler flew over bright blue skies of the continent of Solitas. It had been nearly 2 days since the Reds and Blues began teaching several Huntsman students. Most of them were improving drastically by the second, with the exception of Team CRDL of course. But now, the Reds and Blues need to work on the war effort. Their first problem, an army, and it all went back to a conversation they had with Ironwood and Ozpin the previous day. I'm still not sure why we need this. Ironwood said to the Blood Gulch crew, the Atlas military is capable of acting as a police force, that can be easily hacked. Griff cut him off, which it almost was. Ironwood rolled his eyes, look, I know you all want to do good. I'm just having a hard time believing that this deal could work. Trust us, General. Locust said to him, the Federal Army of Chorus and the New Republic will increase our resources tenfold. Can we trust your friend? Glinda questioned them. Don't worry. Donut assured them, Vanessa Kimball is an old friend of ours. She'll do anything for us. Hell, we got her to parole Locust. Very well. Ozpin spoke up, how do you propose we move the troops and resources from Chorus all the way to Remnant? A bigger teleporter of course. The Reds and Blues explained that they needed a specific dust type to fuel their teleporter designs, X636. Ironwood knew of a place where most of the dust type was found. An old abandoned Schnee Dust Company mine just north of the Kingdom of Atlas. It seemed like a good place to start. The Prowler landed on the snowy tundra, snow-covered mountains and old run-down SDC buildings surrounded the area. The Reds and Blues exited the ship and began to examine the area. They were all in new armor, this one particularly had a white camo color scheme, while the area of the armor that was once cobalt blue to Honor Church was now the color of the user's original armor, same for the visor. Overall, they were the same as their other new suits, just a different color scheme and built for sub-zero temperatures. Lopez on the other hand, stayed on the Prowler for the time being. Alright, let's move out. Wash said to everyone, the Reds will take one side of the site, while the Blues the other. Geez, it's cold. Griff shivered. Without heat, these suits, or a projected aura. Simmons began, the cold of Solitas can kill you in a matter of hours. Well, it's not as bad as Sidewinder. Carolina shrugged. What's the temperature exactly? It's about -40 Celsius out here. Simmons replied. Everyone just looked at him confused. Quote. That's -40 Fahrenheit. Simmons muttered. That cold. Jesus. WTF, really? Was what the maroon soldier got in response. Simmons sighed. You people are idiots. Well, say it in American next time. Griff retorted before looking at the surrounding facility. So this is the place, huh? Looks abandoned. Well, duh. Kai shot at her brother. Look at the place. I'm starting to realize why Irondic and Atlas wouldn't come with us. Tucker quipped. Fucking sissies. You know I can hear you. Ironwood's voice came through the comms. Oh my God. I just heard God. Have mercy. Caboose shouted. That wasn't God, Caboose. Wash said to him. That was Ironwood. He's just on the comms. And I won't be down there until you clear the area of Grimm, and you all find what you need. Ironwood added. Right. Sarge replied as he and his team walked around the complex. So you wanna tell us what this place is? It was an old facility used by the Schnee Dust Company. Ironwood explained. This area has a large quantity of raw dust beneath the surface. An accident opened up an hole for Grimm to get in. Since then the SDC abandoned the place, leaving the Faunus workers inside to die. Wait, Faunus workers? Wash questioned. Don't tell me that they do. Ironwood cut him off. The SDC claims to help them by giving them jobs. But instead give them bad working conditions, just send them to die in dust mines. Who would do that? Carolina asked. The head of SDC, of course. Ironwood replied. Jacques Schnee. Isn't that the bastard that hates us on the news? Griff questioned. The one with the clip-on tie. Wait, you realize that too? Ironwood asked him. Never mind, yeah, that's him. He's also Weiss, father. From what I know, they've never seen eye to eye. Jacques isn't even a Schnee. He married into the family and took over via his marriage. All he wanted was the family name. He doesn't care about his own bloodline. Only himself. I'm starting to realize why Weiss is at Beacon. Doc muttered, to get away from her fucking prick of a dad. I want to rip his mustache right off his face. O'Malley added. Yaquis will do anything to get his way. Ironwood continued. He's been trying to get a seat on the Atlas Council so he could rival myself, as a matter of fact. Basically he wants to screw over democracy. Locus spoke up. Well, if democracy means power to the people, then yes. Ironwood replied. Seems to me like Jacques is gonna be a problem down the road. Tucker muttered. Better keep a tab on him. He's a threat to us and the peace. I would label him a terrorist. Sure. Ironwood replied. Just as long as it doesn't involve putting a bullet in Jacques' head. Hee, don't worry, Jimmy. I was thinking of turning him over to you in the end. Tucker chuckled. The Reds and Blues eventually arrived at several caverns that went down behind the SDC complex. This was the main entrance. Simmons muttered. Avalanche blocked it up and opened up several new tunnels. This is where we'll split up. Agreed. Sarge said to him. Red team on me. Red team entered the left cave, while blue team proceeded into the right cave. Pav change. Red team. Red team walked through the darkened halls of the abandoned dust mine, weapons at the ready. Where the fuck is all the dust? Griff muttered. This is just a cavern, Griff. Simmons shot at him. You're not gonna find any dust in this area. It could have had dust before. Griff countered. Maybe the Grimm ate it. Sure, cause that's a plausible theory. Sarge said to him dryly. Or just an idea thought up by an idiot. Red team stopped walking and raised their rifles. What was that? Locus muttered. Somebody following us. Donut questioned. Maybe. The voice said to them, or perhaps I'm simply trying to see what you are all up to. Griff tightened his grip on his rifle. I know that voice. Show yourself. Raven. Sure enough, a red portal appeared right in front of Red team. Raven then walked out of the portal, her sword already in her hands. What in Sam Hill are you doing here? Sarge asked her, his shotgun pointed at her face. What? Raven questioned. I can't visit. Red team looked at one another before they opened fire on Raven. She dodged the incoming bullets before slashing at them with her fire dust-infused sword. The Reds successfully dodged the firewall, which left a scourged line in the ground. Come and get me, Raven said to them before dashing down a separate ice cavern. Griff then ran after her at whatever his speed was. Griff. Wait. Locust shouted as Griff was already out of sight. I've got this. Griff shouted, keep going. Red team decided to listen to him and kept going. But not without warning blue team, of course. Guys. Simmons shouted into the comms, Raven's here. Pav change. Blue team. Griff's giving chase right now. What? How'd she get here? Tucker asked. We don't know. Simmons replied, she just showed up out of nowhere. Griff said he can handle her. If he's got it, he's got it. Wash said to him, let's keep moving, Griff will find us later. Alright, over and out, Sarge replied before getting off comms. Carolina then decided to speak, you sure Griff can handle her? She questioned. Trust me, I know Griff. Doc said to her, we all do. Kai added, but I knew him best. Once he has a goal, he won't stop until he reaches it. Whether it's simply to be lazy, or to protect his friends. Pav change. Raven Bronwyn. Raven ran through the icy caves of the old SDC mine. She flipped over a small chasm before an unknown object hit her, and she ended up trampling down the Avern before landing on a frozen plateau looking over a huge cavern filled with dust crystals. The unknown object that hit her turned out to be Griff, who immediately drew his sword. I must admit, Raven muttered as she got back on her feet, you're faster than you look, Dexter. How did you find us, Raven? Griff barked at her, have you been spying on us? I thought I told you to watch over Yang for me. Raven replied, ignoring what he said to her. You didn't answer my question. Griff retorted. The two began to circle one another as Raven spoke to him, my semblance is very unique. I have the ability to make an emotional attachment with someone over time. In doing so, I then can make a portal to his or her location. I have one for Yang, one for Tai, one for Kiro, I had one for Summer, and now I have one for you. When did you of all people make an attachment with me? Griff questioned. Raven shrugged, beats me. Perhaps we're the same. We are definitely not the same. Griff barked at her, the only thing we have in common, is Yang. Which reminds me. Raven continued, you haven't answered my question. If you wish to know, I am watching over Yang. Griff shot at her. By training her to fight a war on terrorism. Raven questioned, then I presume you and your friends are already in league with Oz. May I ask, what did he tell you so far? Griff then started walking up to her, he told us enough. Griff then slashed at Raven with his sword, but was deflected by Raven's. The two proceeded to do this until Raven managed to find an opening, and punched Griff in the stomach. The orange soldier stumbled a bit before Raven grabbed him and threw him into an ice wall. Raven charged at him, but Griff managed to dodge her upcoming attack and rolled out of the way, and Raven ended up getting her sword stuck in the ice. Griff then took out the Griff shot and fired a single round, causing the icy plateau to shatter into pieces. Both Griff and Raven ended up falling deeper into the cavern. As they fell, Raven tried to turn into a raven and fly away. But Griff stopped her by delivering a punch into her face. Raven retaliated by kicking him nuts, causing the orange soldier to groan in pain. Griff quickly sucked up the pain and kicked Raven back before pulling out the Griff shot once more and used its sharp black to pierce the edge of a nearby ice wall, slowing down his descent. Raven proceeded to draw her blade and do the same thing before landing on the ground and proceeded into a nearby cave. Griff did the same and continued to follow her. Pav change. Red team. Red team continued deeper into the cave when a large jolt shook the entire cavern. What in Sam Hill was that? Sarge shouted. Suddenly, a geist broke through the roof of the cave. The Grim was currently possessing a large rock that happened to be covered in the dust crystals they needed. Geist. Locust shouted as he fired his shotgun at the creature, only for it to flee down the icy corridor. Quick. After it. Simmons cried, it has the dust we need. Red team darted after the Geist as fast as they could. With Simmons taking out a grappling hook he had on him and fired a round onto the Geist's back. Simmons proceeded to fly off down the cavern, holding onto the grappling hook for his dear life. FFF foot CCKK. He shouted as the Geist moved at superhuman speed. The Grim then realized what Simmons had done, and began to ram the maroon soldier into any obstacle it saw. But Simmons still managed to hold on as the Geist floated into a large cavern filled with dust. Simmons then detached his grappling hook before hitting the ground hard. Ow! he cried before getting up. Simmons then noticed the Geist turn around and was about to attack him when an explosion came from the cavern's ceiling, causing ice to fall on top of the Geist. The Grim was immediately crushed. Turns out the explosion came from Griff, who fell through the ceiling. Ow! The orange soldier muttered, I think I fell on my keys. Simmons walked over to Griff and helped him up. That was when Raven jumped down from the hole, holding onto her shoulder. Wow! Raven muttered, you pack a punch. Thanks. Griff replied, pistol drawn, I guess. Call it a draw then. Raven questioned. Griff lowered his sidearm, sure. Raven then sheathed her weapon, why are you here? I thought your war effort was centered in Vale currently. We need resources. Simmons explained, that's all you need to know. Suddenly, the rest of Red Team and Blue Team arrived at the scene. Sorry, what did we miss? Tucker asked. What the fuck took you so long? Griff asked Blue Team, did you stop for drive-through? No, but did ask Tucker if we could. Caboose answered him, I wanted Burger King. Burger King. Carolina muttered, please. Subway for life. You got me hooked. Donut added, can we please change the subject? Griff ended the conversation abruptly, Raven YR. Griff was about to turn his sights back to Raven, only to realize that she was gone. Damn it, I should have seen that coming. Raven's gone. Wash guessed. Yep. Griff shrugged, and now she can teleport to me whenever she wants. Simmons looked at him funny, seriously. I thought her semblance allowed her to teleport anywhere. No, that's what we thought. Griff explained, her semblance allows her to make a connection with someone, which then allows her to make a portal to his or her location. From what she told me, she has one for Yang, one for Taiyang, her brother Kiro had one for Summer, and now you. Tucker added, how did she make a connection with you? Carolina asked. She said because we have a lot in common. Griff replied, but the only thing we have in common is Yang. We'll worry about this later. Sarge spoke up, right now look out. Suddenly, the Geist that was thought to have been crushed by Griff and Raven emerged from the icy rubble it was buried in. Sarge charged at it, but the Geist swung one of its arms, impaling Sarge's shoulder before fleeing. Sarge! Tucker shouted. Doc! Help him! On it! On it! POV change. SDC mining facility. Is Sarge gonna be alright? Ironwood asked Tucker and Griff as the trio walked through the abandoned SDC complex. Atlas personnel were now there making sure there were no more Grim in the area. The general was now wearing a new white and blue uniform. His hair was slightly disheveled and his face covered in 5 o'clock shadow. Doc got to work on him right away. Tucker replied, he said he'll be just fine. Good. Ironwood nodded, and Raven was here, correct? Yeah. Griff answered, she formed a connection with me. Now she can teleport to my location whenever she wants. Well, that's just great. Ironwood sighed, though I highly doubt she'll do that in the near future. I highly doubt that. Griff retorted, at least we have the dust we need. Tucker said to them, now we can focus on getting to Chorus and speak to Kimball. Ironwood then felt his scroll ring and took it out of his pocket. Yes. What does he want? He muttered in frustration, okay, fine. Let him land. Ironwood then pocketed his scroll before staring up at the sky. A luxurious bullhead flew toward the nearby landing pad. What is it? Tucker asked as all of the Reds and Blues now joined them, Sarge included, who now had a large bandage over his shoulder. A problem. Ironwood muttered. The white bullhead landed at the facility as Ironwood and the Blood Gulch crew approached it. On the main door to the craft were the initials, SDC. Oh my god. Carolina muttered in disgust. Is that? Yes. Ironwood cut them off, it's him. The door to the bullhead opened and out stepped a man in a white double-breasted suit with a red handkerchief and a clip-on tie. He had fair skin, icy blue eyes, frost-white hair, and a large obnoxious mustache. It was none other than Ironwood's personal rival and the one of few people to display negative views towards the Reds and Blues. Jacques Schnee. So let me get this straight, James. In addition to this nonsensical war of yours that's crippling my business, you've also decided you have the authority to commandeer private property. Jacques rudely announced as he approached Ironwood, when the council hears about this, you will never. Actually, I've already informed them. Ironwood calmly interrupted him, as this is now the site of a classified military operation, it didn't even require a vote. Didn't require a vote. Jacques shouted. You might want to brush up on council law before you lose this upcoming election, Jacques. Ironwood quipped, now, I've allowed you to land here once as a courtesy. The next time, it won't be a friendly reception. Jacques sneered at the general, lately, you seem to forget who your friends really are. I'm going to get that council seat, James, and maybe then, you'll. Jacques then noticed the Reds and Blues standing behind Ironwood. He muttered, you brought those bastards here. Us bastards are going to make this world get back on its feet, said Griff, so what that mouth of yours, dipshit. I'm the head of the Schnee Dust Company. Do you know what I can do to you? Jacques threatened them. Aw, that's sweet. Carolina snarled at him, you're talk gonna tough in your clip-on tie. Jacques grew even angrier as he looked down at his tie. It's a good thing Weiss got as far away from you as she could. You're even worse in person. Doc added. Jacques' eyes widened at the mention of his estranged daughter. Oh yeah, Tucker spoke up, we know here, and why she left Atlas. Jacques recomposed himself, she belongs to me. She threw everything away just to go to Beacon. I'm pretty sure you are all responsible for her staying there in that hellhole of a kingdom. That hellhole has suffered. Wash retorted, all thanks to you, your actions of putting Faunus through hard labor are the reason the White Fang have resorted to acts of violence. How dare you speak to me that way? Jacques protested, I have half a mind too. Half a mind of what, Jacques? Ironwood calmly interrupted him. Jacques sighed in anger before turning to Ironwood, smirking. I knew one day, you would overextend your reach, James. He said to him, I didn't come here to beg for an abandoned mine. I came here to thank you, for personally handing me the noose to hang you. Jacques then turned his sight back on the Reds and Blues, I'm going to get that council seat, and when due, you will be brought to justice. We'll see. Tucker replied darkly. Jacques then turned back around and passed Ironwood. You'll regret this, he said before boarding his ship and leaving the facility. I really want to punch him in the face. O'Malley announced. Same here, Doc added. I'm surprised none of you shot him. Ironwood joking said to him. He's the head of the largest dust exporter and importer. Simmons explained, that's bad doo-doo if we shoot him. Ironwood sighed, I apologize for Jacques' sudden arrival. I didn't expect him to show up out of the blue like that. But there are some other people I want you all to meet. The Reds and Blues all looked at one another before looking back at Ironwood. Who? Ironwood looked back up at the sky. An Atlesian-class Manta was making its way towards the facility. Ah, perfect timing, Ironwood muttered with a smile as he approached the craft. The Reds and Blues proceeded to follow him with interest. The door to the Manta opened and out stepped 5 huntsmen in similar uniforms. General, one of them said to Ironwood. Clover. Ironwood replied, good to have you here. Ironwood then turned to face the Sim Troopers, Reds and Blues, may I introduce the Ace Ops. Atlas, best huntsman team. This is Clover Ebby, the team leader. Clover stepped up, pleasure to meet you all. Same here. Tucker replied, I'm Tucker. I lead blue team, that's Sarge who leads red team, and these are Simmons, Griff, Donut, Lopez, Wash, Carolina, Dr. O'Malley, Kai, Caboose, and Locus. One team that consists of 2. Clover questioned, that's strange. Well, it's a very complicated backstory. Griff muttered casually. But you guys were amazing. The young and newest member of the Ace Ops Maro Amin exclaimed, stopping a terrorist plot before it happens. Well, it's fun to save the planet. Simmons replied, it's our hobby. There is nothing fun about stopping a worldwide crisis, the tranquil Vine Zeki calmly said about Simmons' joke. Well, I can already tell he's a party pooper at parties. Caboose quipped. Ha, you're a funny one. The kind Elm Eddern chuckled as she patted Caboose on the shoulder. However, once she did, she was unprepared for the hard impact. Geeks, he's tough, she muttered. Yeah, Caboose has crazy strength, Doc exclaimed, we call it God's way of compensating. I have to admit your abilities are beyond our comprehension. Clover exclaimed, I don't even think we could have stopped the breach in Vale. Let's not give the Color Crew that much praise. I'm sure we would have beaten those monsters faster if they appeared in Atlas, the competitive Harriet Bree claimed. So, what brings you all out here? Carolina asked them. We were hoping to join the war effort. Clover replied. Ironwood then took it from there, I was hoping for more huntsmen to sign up for Out Operators Guild. I thought why not use the ace ops to help convince more recruitment into our ranks. That does seem like a good idea. Tucker nodded, but first we need to get the supplies we need. This dust facility was the first step in our operation. Once we get them, we'll put the ace ops through some training to test their might. Agreed. Clover replied, then we'll see you all soon. Good luck. Same to you. Pav change. Evernight Castle. The lone Geist from the mining facility flew through the dark plains toward Evernight Castle before stopping just in front of Salem. Report. Salem muttered. The Geist hissed quietly before giving Salem one of its tentacles. Salem smiled sinisterly. Good, the blood of one of the soldiers themselves. The Geist then reached out and gave her a sliver of dust. Interesting. And this is the end of part 9 of this What If. Do not forget to leave a comment down below, subscribe to this channel.